Hi everyone, don't worry, you are still watching Michelle's channel, but it's Laura here from Crafty Not Shifty, and I'm taking over today's Sketch Sunday. If you want to see Michelle's video, you can click over to my YouTube channel where I'll have it featured there. So I'm starting off with a 5x7 card base that I'm folding and scoring, and on top of this I'm going to be layering a white panel that's measured 4 7/8 of an inch by 6 7/8 of an inch. And what I've done with this is I've just found the centre and put a dot in the middle. So I'm going to cut out a triangle here out of Simon Says Stamp masking paper. The triangle measures 1 3/4 wide at the base by 4 1/4 inches tall. And I'm just going to cut that out to use it with some of my inks to make kind of a rainbow pattern. So I actually found that this method wasn't working very well for me, but I've left it in the video to show you exactly what I did and the full process. So I've got my mat here and I'm just sticking that down with some repositionable adhesive onto my Simon Says Stamp grid paper. And I've got my inks. They are Hollyhock, Sunkissed, Duckling, Jelly Bean and Scuba. So I'm using these small ink daubers and I'm going to use one per colour and just kind of press the ink through this stencil to make a sunburst pattern across my card base. I'm lining up the tip of the triangle with that centre point there, and I'm just going to use one of these ink daubers to just press the ink on and make a rainbow pattern. So I found, as I say, I found that using the stencil actually wasn't working very well for me. It was just a little bit too thin and too flimsy, so it actually broke after I'd used it just a couple of times, and I found that using some post-it tape worked much better. But if you prefer, you can use these stencils. I'd just suggest making a couple of them, as they do get dirty quite quickly and they are quite prone to tearing. So I just worked my way around using the post-it tape. So I would stick a piece of post-it tape down and then use the triangle segment that I cut out earlier to make sure that the post-it tape was evenly spaced. And I'd stick that down and press the ink through. And using it this way, once the post-it tape got dirty, I could just turn that round and use the other side, and then after I felt it was a little bit too dirty to use anymore, I could just get a new strip really easily without having to cut a new mask. To apply the ink, you could also use the round Tim Holtz blending tools, but as the tip of the triangle is so small, I found that these fingertip daubers worked really well for me and allowed me to get into that small space nice and clean. So these ink colours that I'm using are from the new Simon Says Stamp Colour of Fun release, and they're really bright, lovely colours. I was really happy with how this turned out. So there's a couple of dots in the centre where the ink, I didn't have my stencil kind of perfectly lined up, so I'm just going to fill those in. I am going to cut out a section in the centre, so I'm not too worried about the centre piece there, but I want to make sure that the outside edges are really nice and crisp. Once I've got all of that ink applied, I can then take the repositional adhesive off the back and bring in a panel that I have cut down to 5 inches by 3 inches. I'm just going to centre that down onto my card and draw around that with a pencil so I have a clear guide as to where I need to cut. So I'm coming in with my craft knife on top of a self-healing mat. I'm just cutting that window out using my Tim Holtz ruler. So the reason I'm cutting this out is that I'm going to be making a shaker card today. I decided that I would use the centre of the kind of centre panel in the sketch as actually a window. So I'm going to be using some dies. These dies are from a Simon Says Stamp Celebrate stamp set. I'm using the balloon dies to cut out the balloon shapes just from that outside panel. You don't have to do this step, you can just stick the balloons on top of the card, but I wanted to use an inlay technique to make those nice and flush. So now I'm going to bring in that panel section, and I'm just going to lay out my Simon Says Stamp birthday, scripty word, and also a mama elephant happy. So I'm laying in those balloon dies to make sure everything's centered exactly how I want it, and then I'll just run that through my die cutting machine again. So when you cut a word like this, I like to flip it over and just check that everything's cut through perfectly before I remove the die to make sure it's really easy to get a nice crisp cut. I'm going to bring in my poking tool and just poke out all of those little pieces that have got stuck inside the die, and you have a really nice pretty kind of, it's not an ombre because it's too bright of a colour, but a really nice rainbow letter die. I'm just going to do the same with the birthday. Make sure I pull all of that out and lay that down. So now I'm going to move on to cutting out my balloons. I'm taking the ink colours that I used earlier and I'm just creating some custom coloured cardstock that perfectly matches those inks by swiping the ink pads across the top of the paper surface so the colour perfectly matches. I'm going to use those 3 balloon dies that you saw earlier to cut out the balloons to inlay within the card, and I'm just using some micropore tape to hold those in place. I'm also going to bring in the Lots of Stars Mama Elephant die, and to make sure that these stars that I use inside of the shaker card are coloured on both sides, I actually swiped the ink pad on the back of the cardstock as well. So there I have all of the stars cut out. I ran the stars die through twice for each shape of colour to get me all of my shaker material. So I'm going to bring in the card base now, and I'm using some fun foam. If you don't have fun foam, you can use some 3D foam tape instead. You just need something to pop up the panel on your card so there is room for the shaker material to move inside. If you want a little bit more room, you can use 2 pieces of the craft foam, but as the background of the card is so plain, I actually want some of the stars to get stuck and fill in the background. So I just use my craft knife to cut that out. It cuts really easily, and you can use your paper trimmer as well. I'm sticking some acetate down to the panel to make sure that all of that material stays stuck inside, and then I'm using some Tombow Mono to stick the foam on top. So now I'm going to inlay the balloons that we die cut, and again I'm using my Tombow Mono adhesive, and I'm just sticking each of those inside of the little slots that they fit into, and that beautifully covers up any of that craft foam that's showing from the rectangle that we've cut out. Once I've got all of those stuck into place, I'm just going to turn over this panel and I'm going to add the shaker material. If you wanted to, you could just use sequins instead, or you could add some glitter. But I really like the stars and the way that they perfectly match the ink colours that we used earlier. So using the Tombow Mono again, I'm just applying some adhesive, and then I'm going to bring in my card base and make sure I've got that first of all the right way round and then perfectly centered so that the shaker section is in the center of the card. I'm just going to press down lightly to stick that and then turn that over, and there you can see we are almost done with the card. I'm bringing in my Ranger Multimedia Matte that I've got in a fine line applicator bottle, and I'm just applying the adhesive to the back of the word dies that we cut out earlier, and I've got those on some post-it tape to make this step a little bit easier. So I'm laying down the birthday die so I can position my happy just where I want it. I'm going to place down that tape and then hold it in place with an acrylic block while the glue really sticks. So the good thing about these fine line applicator bottles is that they have a pin inside them which makes sure that the tip never clogs. So I'm pressing down that birthday in the exact same way, and again I'm just going to use the acrylic block to hold that in place while the glue sticks. So now that that's dry, I'm applying some Wink of Stella on top of these balloons. A card really isn't complete without a little bit of glitz and glimmer added to it, so the Wink of Stella is perfect for that. And once that's dry, I'm going to bring in my Signo white rollerball gel pen, and I'm just adding a highlight onto the top of each of those balloons. Now for some reason in the video you can't see the highlight very well on the yellow. I think it's just how I've got my lighting set up, but I promise it is there and you can see it in real life. And to finish off these balloons and give them a little bit more dimension, I'm adding some glossy accents on the top of these. Now I did add quite a lot of glossy accents, so it did take a very long time to dry, and unfortunately when I came back in to look at the card and see how it was drying, I found that because of all of the moisture from the glossy accents, one of the colours, that hollyhock up in the top left hand corner, has bled a little bit, so you can see that here. So to avoid that I could have applied the glossy accents to the balloons before I stuck them onto the card base, so I'll have to remember that in future so I don't make the same mistake again. But there we go. my card is all finished. I hope you like it. This is the first time that I've joined in with a My Favorite Things sketch challenge, so thank you very much for having me over on this channel, and I really do hope that you've enjoyed the video. I want to say thank you to Michelle for having me. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to check out my YouTube channel for more from me, and of course so you can watch Michelle's usual video. Thanks for watching. Bye!
Hi everyone! Thanks for watching my friend Laura's YouTube video of Sketch Sunday. I hope that you enjoyed this little takeover twist that we decided to do. And if you did, leave comments below and give us thumbs up. Please go to Laura's YouTube channel and also her blog, which I will leave links to below in the more information section, and check out her channel and her blog post. She has lots of great ideas over there, and I will see you guys again real soon for another Sketch Sunday. Thanks for watching. Bye!